All right, let's talk about Najee Harris now. And he's going 31st overall. Let me see where he's going. Najee Harris among running backs since July 1st. He is RB11. So that's right after Ramondre Stevenson, before Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall. It's going to be before Joe Mixon, but I don't know if that's – I'll try to get a more recent data point for that. But Heath, you want to start on Najee Harris? Is this your guy or is this Jamie's guy? Is it not draft?
This is mine. This is the rare back-to-back year bust call from me. He was a bust last year, and I think he might be a bust again this year. There's reports, and we've talked about this. I get more concerned about negative reports than I get excited about positive reports because everybody's saying nice things. And there's reports about his own linebackers talking trash to him about he needs to get downfield. I just don't. It's really not a good sign historically for a back to get as much work as early in his career as Najee Harris has and been this inefficient, both in the running game and in the passing game. Jaylen Warren was better at almost everything last year, and I just don't know how much longer they're going to force feed Najee Harris.
Jamie, how much does the foot injury that he suffered just before the season started factor into your evaluation of Najee Harris? Because he was better. They had basically a mid-season bye week. It's like right in the middle. And he was better after that. Plus, they've upgraded their offensive line. I think there are reasons to be optimistic, but certainly Heath lays out very good reasons to be pessimistic. Your thoughts on Najee?
No, I don't disagree. I think you got to factor it in. I think the offensive line will be better. The thing that saves Najee Harris a lot here is his coach and the history of what they do with their lead running back. We've seen some, I don't want to say necessarily bad seasons, but I guess you could say last year, bad season for Najee, and they stuck with him and stuck with him and stuck with him. There was the story about Jaylen Warren getting more work, and it really never materialized to the point where, Najee was benched or even, coming off the field for significant stretches. And we're hearing, some more of that this year, that they're going to put Jaylen Warren on the field. I think it was 8 times last year, if I remember correctly, that they both played on the field together. You've heard some stories like that where they're going to, do some unique combinations. But we hear that a lot. You never really see it with running backs playing a ton together. So I think he's still going to be the workhorse, and that's kind of what saves him. He's never going to get back to that passing game, at least, I don't want to say role, but numbers, just because Ben Roethlisberger was a statue and Kenny Pickett's not that. So he's not going to dump the ball off to him to the same degree like we saw in his rookie campaign. So if you could deal with some potential trap back type of moments, then you'll understand what Najee Harris is. I think he's, a guy that sort of is in that mix of a healthy J.K. Dobbins, Dameon Pierce, and Alexander Madison, Miles Sanders, guys that you expect to get a lot of work, but just you can see the highs, you can see the lows, and just understand what you're dealing with here. So this is kind of, I think, what I would put in the category of a dead zone running back if things fail.
But you guys, are you just assuming that he's not going to be the passing downs back?
I don't want to say he's not going to be the passing downs back. I just don't think he's going to be the passing downs back to what people remember from his rookie campaign. So is he going to play on third downs? Yes. Is he going to play on every third down like typical Steelers running backs do? Probably not.
I have him projected. I was going to see for total number of catches. I don't think he's top 12. I think I have Warren projected for more. Okay. I have Najee projected for 43 catches, tied with Travis Etienne for 17th.
So would you take him in round 4? Would you take Najee Harris if he made it to you in round 4?
Yeah, mid to late.
Okay. Would you take J.K. Dobbins or Najee Harris?
Najee.
Yeah, it's hard right now to have a lot of confidence in J.K. Dobbins.
But I would take Miles Sanders over Najee Harris.
Jamie, would you take Miles Sanders over Najee Harris?
No, I would not, but I could certainly see the argument for it.
Would you take Jahmyr Gibbs or Najee Harris?
Gibbs in PPR, for sure.
I've got Najee ahead of Gibbs.
Heath, would you take David Montgomery over Najee?
I think I have them back to back. I think I have it Najee and then Montgomery. I've got it Najee, Gibbs, Montgomery back to back to back.
All right. By the way, our position previews are starting this week. So we'll have our QB preview on Thursday, tight end on Friday. Next week will be running backs and wide receivers. And we'll talk about a tight end after this quick break on FFT. George Kittle, 57th overall. This is someone, both of you agree, not going to draft George Kittle in round 5?
Correct.
Heath, you agree?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's there's nobody on this list I disagree with.
Okay. Well, Debo, you kind of did.
Right. Yes. That was nobody left. Nobody
Nobody.
left that I disagree with.
George Kittle, the one thing that I don't want to draft him 57th, but the one thing that just gets me with him is he's been top 3 per game in PPR 5 straight seasons. He just gets it done at the end of the day. But Jamie, why is 57th too early for George Kittle?
Again, target share. I think you look at what he was able to do when Deebo Samuel was out last season versus when Deebo Samuel was in the games that Brock Purdy played, and it was fantastic. But then when Samuel was there, it just was not the same. Touchdown spike for him at the end of the season. Heath was alluding to that Brock Purdy just kept finding the end zone. Well, a lot of that was to George Kittle, and that's why I think Kittle, despite the fact that one guy's an Iowa guy, one guy's an Iowa State guy, that they still find a way to coexist and get along. I just think that if everybody's healthy, and you said this, Adam, we just haven't seen that consistently from them. But that's Kittle as well, is that, if they're all there, is he going to be able to be as successful? So when you start to, again, nitpick these guys, and Kittle is in that, I think, however you want to put Andrews, second tier, first tier, whatever. But that next group of tight ends from Hawkinson, if you're looking at our YouTube page, but Hawkinson, Pitts, Goddard, Waller, and Kittle, I think all belong in the same tier. For me, he's at the bottom. And I think it's just, he's so good. He's so successful. You'll love drafting him. I don't have a problem drafting him. I just don't want to draft him here, and I don't want to draft him first.
Did you give the stat on the games below 40 yards, Adam?
Yeah. So over the last 2 seasons, George Kittle has played 35 games, including the postseason, and he has 40 or fewer yards in 20 of the 35 games.
And 7 of his last 10.
Yeah, but he also has these huge games, 70 or more yards in 12 games. So the weirdest thing is, in his last 40 games, in his last 35 games, he only has 3 games where he's been between 41 and 69 yards. He's either below 40 or over 70, basically, every time. That's strange.
Yeah,
but there are a lot of bad games, Heath.
He had one game last year between 40 and 80, counting the playoffs.
That's weird.
18 games, one of them between 40 and 80 yards.
Yeah. I don't really know what to make of that. I don't know if that'll continue. He caught a ton of touchdowns from Purdy, but he had actually terrible numbers with Purdy in terms of when everyone was healthy. He just was losing so many targets to Debo and to McCaffrey and to Ayuk. He was way in the bottom. I mean, it was 4 games where they all played basically, and he had 16 targets. So that's super alarming. Heath, when would you take Kittle?
I have Kittle in round 7, and that's the other thing is I've got 3 tight ends in the first 59 picks. I've got Pitts at 60, so the very last pick of round 5. But I've only got 4 tight ends that I would take in round 5 technically, and then I've got Goddard in round 6, and then Kittle in round 7.
I'm gonna skip around because I feel like disagreeing with you guys.
Good.
So
I would like that if you did.
Let's do it. Too much kumbaya today. Let's do it with DeShaun Watson here. And I 72nd. I've never taken him 72nd. But yeah, what's your thought, Jamie, on DeShaun Watson? And he is QB 9. And he's going 22 picks after Trevor Lawrence at QB 8. But he's also going 18 picks ahead of Tua Tagovailoa at QB 10. So DeShaun Watson's kind of in a tier of his own at QB 9.
I think, first off, I'd rather have Tua. I think there's more upside there. So there's obviously, I think, a lower floor based on injury, but I think there's a higher ceiling with Tua. So I would rather take my chances with him. The thing with Watson that you have to be a little concerned about, obviously, is what we saw last year in the layoff. Is he ever going to get back to that level? And so you got to love what the Browns did this offseason to put guys around him. They draft Cedric Tillman. They trade for Elijah Moore, still Amari Cooper, still David Njoku, still Donovan Peoples-Jones. And so while I think it's still going to be a run-first team, how much of the push and pull versus what the maybe ownership group versus coach want to see? But obviously DeShaun Watson makes him a better team if he's able to get back to that level. So I think he's a great value. I don't mind drafting him where we take him. But I think at this price, 72nd overall is just too soon. But I think what we see with all of these drafts that we're looking at on this ADP, all the quarterbacks are pushed up. So I would rather, when we talk about quarterbacks, for me, look at what number they're being drafted as opposed to number overall. And so I think if he's the number 9 quarterback, still a little bit too soon. But that's, I think, the range that he's close to as opposed to 72nd overall.
And yeah, I think I've got him at 11. I don't know how safe do people think that he is? Like, are you just completely ignoring last year and you think everything's going to be fine this year? Because I don't think he has the same. I think Jamie's right. I don't think he has the same upside as Tua. I don't think he has the same upside as Anthony Richardson. I would also take Dak over Watson, but I think they're like right in the same range. Flip a coin. So I'd like him as a low end starter. It's weird that on a team that, and I know we think they're going to pass more. I'm projecting them to pass more than they have, but on a team that has been so run heavy since Kevin Stefanski got there, with a quarterback who looked so bad in the last 6 games of last year, that he's already up to QB9.
Yeah.
Like, what's the justification for that?
All
Just
right.
he was so awesome 5 years ago.
I got you. I got your justification right here. QB9 is exactly where I would take DeShaun Watson. Hopefully not, 20 picks before Tua and Dak and Cousins and those guys go. But yeah, if I can get him 20 picks after Trevor Lawrence, I think that's really good. I'll just say it's a bit of an internal conflict for me. If I weren't so repulsed by the idea of having DeShaun Watson on a lot of fantasy teams, he would probably be my most drafted player. But the reason is this: he's been on run heavy offenses before, and he's been awesome on a per game basis in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. DeShaun Watson, he was number 4. No, I'm sorry, that was 4-point. He was number 7, number 6, and number 6 per game in his last 3 seasons with Houston. Per game in a 4-point per passing touchdown leagues, he was number 4, and number 6. And he never had a big touchdown year, really. He never had one of those, just lucky years where he threw 40 touchdowns or anything like that, or combined for 40 touchdowns. So my case for him is, especially compared to Tua, he's going to rush for 350 more yards than Tua Tagovailoa. And Tua didn't have any rushing touchdowns last year. So you've got there's so much more rushing production from Watson. Heath, I am just forgetting about last year. I am, maybe I shouldn't, but I just don't care. Tough circumstances for a quarterback to miss that much time. I like the weapons enough and love the offensive line. I think he has proven himself. If you took away last year and you just said, where should he be drafted? He should be drafted ahead of Dak and Cousins and Tua, in my opinion. I think he's fine here. And I think they are going to be a pass first. I don't know. I think they're going to be a pretty balanced team. I think he's going to take advantage of that and have a huge season. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. I don't even know for sure about the weapons part of that.
I like them enough.
I mean, they're fine.
What's wrong with them, though?
It's probably the worst weapons of the top 10 quarterbacks, isn't it? Besides maybe Justin Fields, who was going to run for 1,000
better
yards?
than Mahomes. He's better than Mahomes.
So Kelsey's better than Amari Cooper.
I mean, sure, but
so Elijah Moore is definitely better than whoever's the Chiefs' number 1 wide receiver. Like Elijah Moore was absolutely nothing last year.
I mean, the Chiefs have no vertical passing game, and that's fine. They won the Super Bowl with no vertical passing game, but the Browns, I would say, have better.
I just don't think.
I don't know if I agree with that. I would say Marcus Valdez-Scantling is probably a better vertical threat than what the Browns have.
Wouldn't. I mean, he's not.
Unless you're calling Amari Cooper a vertical threat at this point. Still.
More so than anyone on the Chiefs.
I think you can just draw a line through DPJ and MVS, and we'll just cancel those 2 guys out.
DPJ. No, I'd much rather have DPJ. Like if DPJ went to the Chiefs, you'd draft him.
I don't know. They got like 18 wide receivers right now. I don't even know who's going to make the team.
All right.
I'm not defending the Chiefs wide receivers. They're amongst the worst in the league, but I'm not sure DeShaun Watson's weapons are a plus.
Okay. I think that's a fair point.